want to say welcome to everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you. And this week we have a double portion. We are reading both Vayakhel and Pikudei, and this happens every time there is a year. As you know, there are different numbers of weeks in the year, in the Hebrew year. And so sometimes we spread them out and have two, and sometimes two portions come together as they do this week. And what we're doing tonight is finishing the book of Exodus. So it's not really tonight, it's on Shabbos, because our reading goes from Shabbos afternoon through Shabbos morning. So this is our week of reading Vayakhel and Pikudei, the last two parshiot that describe the building of the Mishkan. So there's 5 parshiot, and we are beginning with chapter 31:1, but we're going to actually jump back a little bit to last week's portion to take a look at it to begin our study. But I'd like to begin with the prayer with which we begin. So as soon as Jerry's ready and can enable me to share my screen with you, I will try and do that. Are we there yet, Jerry, or not?
Yep. Let me just get back to the.
Hey, Jerry, Rabbi Elwell, Jerry, there are folks in the waiting room. If you could let them in.
I just did.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. So without the prayer, we'll do the prayer, and let's just take a minute to center ourselves, because this is, we need to. So I want to welcome you all, and hopefully we'll let the people in who are waiting. This is going to be our biggest group today to date. So we want to welcome everyone. And we have a tradition of beginning our Torah study with a prayer, thanking God for enabling us to immerse ourselves in the study of Torah. So I'm going to say it once so everyone hears it, and then we'll do the blessing together. This is the prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourselves and say that prayer together. And then we'll begin our study with what Jerry has kindly brought up on the screen. Baruch atah
Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So and now please mute yourselves. We thank you, O Holy One, who is the sovereign of the universe, who enables us to immerse ourselves in the study of Torah. And I'm going to add, may our hearts and our minds open to Torah tonight and to the insights of those with whom we study. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be your will. Amen. So our first piece of study this evening is going to be to look back at a portion from Tetzaveh. So last week's Torah portion, because in chapter 12, we're going to read chapters 12 through 17 of last week's portion, which we didn't get to study together because we haven't been together for 2 weeks. And I'm going to ask Fred if you would be our reader in English from what's on the screen or what's in your book. Chapter 31, verses 12 to 17.
Jerry, is there a way to enlarge that or no?
What?
Can that be enlarged any bigger or?
How's that?
Oh yeah, that's better.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Tell me when to move it up. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Rabbi, I'm starting with 12.
Yes, please.
And through what?
Through 17.
Oh, okay. All right. And the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelite people and say, nevertheless, you must keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout the ages, that you may know that I, the Lord, have consecrated you. You shall keep the Sabbath, for it is holy for you. He who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his kin. Okay. Let's see here. Oopsie. All right. Okay. Where do we go here? Okay, good. Thank you.
15, please.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Things were moving. 6 days may work be done, but on the seventh day there shall be a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. The Israelite people shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It shall be a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he ceased from work and was refreshed.
So I realized that Jerry is correct, that when I sent it to him, it looked right to me, but now the Hebrew got all screwed up, and I apologize. So any of you,
But this Hebrew is correct, right?
no, it's not. It's not.
This isn't either.
This Hebrew is scrambled. And I'm obviously going to have to work on this to get it better for you, because that's the whole point, is so you folks can deal with it and read it. So what we're going to do is, I want anyone who has a book, and I really apologize for this, turn to your book and take a look at these verses in the Hebrew. In Parshat Tetzaveh, which is last week's portion. And we're taking a look at,
So the Hebrew is correct. It's just from left to right. If you read the words, it's the correct order, but it's in English direction.
well, that means it's screwed up.
No, but you can read it. Shmartem Shabbat Ki Kodesh.
Well, it should be Vishamru. This is the Vishamru part that we read, that we sing every week. And that's what I
Yeah.
wanted you to take a look at.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot.
Oh, all right. So where do you see that?
16.
In six, okay.
V'shamru
What are we, Exodus 31?
Yes.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat l'dorotam Barit Olam.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. So does this phrase, does this sound familiar to anyone? What Jerry just kindly read for us.
We sing it all the time.
We do sing it every week.
B'nei Yisrael.
Okay, so here it is, embedded in this portion that Fred just read to us, that is actually fairly difficult. The fact that anyone who profanes Shabbat should be put to death. We don't sing that. We just sing the remembrance part. And this is in some ways a really good example. I studied with some of you on Shabbat morning, and we said that this is a really interesting example of how the liturgy preserves portions that work, that are good memories, that are challenges to how we should be in the world. But then we don't save the portion that says, observing Shabbat, you'll be cut off. So I just wanted to point that out before we got further into this portion, and I'll be very happy to have some questions if you have them.
Again, thank you.
I'd like to say something, Rabbi.
Please.
if you take this statement as a metaphor, it might mean, well, maybe you just said that. Now I'm confused. It might mean that you're separating one who does not observe the Sabbath is separating himself or herself from the community.
Hmm.
And
Okay, so thank you. Any other thoughts here on this text? Oh, thank you, Jerry, for bringing.
Thanks, Susan Bear, for looking it up.
Okay, all right, so this, I think I missed.
Very larger.
All right, it's the Exodus 31, and the lines that we sing every week are lines verses 16 to and 17. So
To
just
make it
these,
larger, Jerry, if you click on the A and the Aleph and then go to where it says font
Yep, I just did
and
that.
click it a couple times.
Okay,
One, at least that's better. And then hit the A Aleph again.
is that good enough for everybody?
good, thank you very much. And just scroll down
Isabel.
a little
Thanks,
bit so
Isabella.
everyone can see 15 to 15, 16 and 17. You did it just right. Thank you so much. Good. So look how much we've learned already in 15 minutes. Yay. All right. So, and then what follows that, and this is in last week's portion in Kitisa, when God finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 2 tablets, stone tablets inscribed with the finger of God. So here, this is, okay, guys, a big part of what you're going to be doing in covenant with me is observing the Sabbath. And now what I'd like to do is to move to pick a day, and thank you, excuse me, into Vayakhel. And thank you, Susan, for this good directive at the bottom in the chat to send people to Safaria. And Jerry, I'd like to go back to my handout now, please.
Oh, so you don't want to use this, okay. I have to go back to where it was here. Same page, first page?
No, the second page, please.
Okay.
And let's see what happened to the Hebrew there.
No, I think it's all the same, but it was worse before.
Okay.
When I first opened it yesterday, it was all spread out with periods in between. And all the letters were really mixed up, so.
All right, yeah, I realize, I don't know what
It's okay,
happened.
it's
So
okay.
you're totally right, and maybe we
It's
need to go
okay.
back to
You can just read
Safari.
it from left to right, that's all.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's what they did. So, of course, so we are not sharing the screen. All right, no, so we're not doing that. Okay.
You don't see it?
So, yeah, I see it. I see it. Do other people see it?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, so Jerry's correct that if you look at the way that we read the English, it says Moses then convoked the whole Israelite community. And then it's true that that the words got totally turned around. So the first word that's above Moses is the first word, Vayakhel. And the second word is Moshe. And then the third word is a triply hyphenated word. And it reads B'nai et kol, it's et kol edat and preceded by B'nai. It's enough to make someone totally crazy, and we clearly won't do this again. We'll just go right to Safaria. But I wanted us to read, we're just going to read the English, and I would like, let's see if I can't see everybody. So I'm going to just call on Hector because I noticed you were here tonight. And Hector, would you read verses 1 through 3? 1 through, no, let's go 1 through 5.
Okay. All right,
Please.
this is chapter 35. Yeah.
Is
Moses then convoked the whole Israelite community and said to them, These are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do. On 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Now, this sounds familiar. We just read this the previous week in Kitisa, but let's keep going and see if we get more repetition.
You shall kindle no fire throughout your settlements on the Sabbath day. Moses said further to the whole community.
Okay, wait, I'm going to stop you just after the kindling of the no fire. Did anyone remember that from the Kitisa direction?
Didn't it just say you shouldn't work?
That's right. It said don't work. And here, no kindling fire. So it seems that each time that the Sabbath is mentioned, there's a little tweaking. So we've got to put all of the prohibitions together if we're really going to pay attention to those particular prohibitions, but to learn about it, it's going to be different. But what I wanted to point out is that here in the directions of how to build the Mishkan, how to build this special place that will be carried as the Israelites continue their journey, that the Sabbath is clearly of great importance. And so then it continues. I didn't put the number 4. It should have been there before the line that
That's
Hector
okay.
started to read.
I'm reading out of my own book anyway.
Okay, good. So I'd like you to read 4, and then you're going to continue for a while, and Jerry's going to scroll down so that we have it in front of us. So just go for it, and then I'll stop you when it's time.
Moses said further to the whole community of Israelites, this is what the Lord has commanded you. Take from among you gifts to the Lord. Everyone whose heart so moves him shall bring them, gifts to the Lord, gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, and goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood?
I think it's pronounced acacia.
Acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli,
I think
and other stones for setting, for the
ephod.
ephod and the breastpiece. And let all among you who are skilled come and make all that the Lord has commanded. The tabernacle, its tent and its covering, its clasps and its planks, its bars, its posts, and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the cover and the curtain for the screen, the table and its poles and all its utensils, and the bread of display, the lampstand for lighting, its furnishings and its lamps, and the oil for lighting, the altar of incense and its poles, the anointing oil and the aromatic incense, and the entrance screen for the entrance of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering, its copper grating, its poles and all its furnishings, the laver, and its stand, the hangings of the enclosure, its posts and its sockets, and the screen for the gate of the court, the pegs of the tabernacle, the pegs for the enclosure and in their cords, the service vestments for officiating in the sanctuary, the sacral vestments of Aaron the priest, and the vestments of his sons for priestly service. So the whole community of Israelites left Moses' presence, and everyone who excelled in ability and everyone whose spirit moved him came, bringing to the Lord his offering for the work of the tent of meeting, and for all its service, and for the sacral vestments. Men and women, all whose hearts moved them, all who would make an elevation offering of gold to the Lord, came bringing brooches, earrings, rings, and pendants, gold objects of all kinds. And everyone who had in his possession blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, and dolphin skins brought them. Everyone who would make gifts of silver or copper brought them as gifts to the Lord. And everyone who had in his possession acacia wood for any work of the service brought that. And all the skilled women spun with their own hands and brought what they had spun in blue, purple, and crimson yarns and in fine linen. And all the women who excelled in that skill spun the goat's hair. And the chieftains brought lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for ephod and for the breastpiece, and spices and oil for lighting, for the anointing oil, and for the aromatic incense. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the Lord, for the work that the Lord through Moses had commanded to be done, brought it as a free will offering to the Lord.
Thank you. So you, Jerry, can we go back to page 4, please? And if you could make it bigger, that would be great. And so you notice that Hector read some verses that I hadn't included. I skipped over them, but I'm delighted that you read them, Hector, because there are so many details between verse 22 and verse 29. But I wanted to make sure we got to verse 29. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the work that God through Moses had commanded to be done, brought it as a free will offering to the Holy One. And so now I would love to see, Jerry, I'm going to ask you to stop screen sharing. And this way I want to see everybody, the gallery, and I would love to hear from you. What have we just read? And I just saw a hand go up, and I think it was Marag. Did you just hear?
I was just wondering, so why does God need all this? Assuming that it's like actual gifts for God and not to be used for everyone as a form of like social and communal jackpot of stuff. But why does God need brooches and crimson and blue?
I love your question. I love your question. So God is asking the people to come together and build this Mishkan. This is the portable sanctuary. They're going to carry it with them through their journeys. This is not like building Road of Shalom. This is to build this, and it's not even that big. I mean, there are many archaeological excavations and explanations of what size it really was. But the idea, and we took a look at this, I think those of you who were with me on Shabbat, but I can, oh, maybe it's in our reading tonight too. I'll take a look at it. No, it was last week. That the Mishkan is an open box. It's as if they're building a miniature building that will be, they know God dwells everywhere, but there's this symbol that they want to have something, because human beings need symbols. We found that out. If we didn't already know it, that's partly what the story of the golden calf is about. We need things. And oh, I should have brought, I have some really lovely little asherot, little goddesses that people have given me over the years. And I bet you all have something in your home, whether it's a rabbit's foot or a special little stuffed animal or even a stone. Often we look for heart-shaped stones when we walk on the beach, or a shell or something that for us is a special thing. And I think human beings really need things. And so bringing all these special things into one place to build this Mishkan, I think was a real human need. So it's not giving it up to God. It's saying God is beyond all these gorgeous colors, but these beautiful stones and the special yarns are one manifestation of beauty in the world. And human beings have spent generations trying to create beauty. Those of you who have traveled to Europe, especially, where there's such amazing cathedrals, although we have beautiful cathedrals in America too, and we have some very beautiful buildings. And those of you who have visited Baha'i temples I mean, we could go on, but those are just buildings. There are so many other gifts that people make for God. Even the little, someone's going to help me. Those, when you're in a Spanish speaking country where there are little altars everywhere, what are they called? Help me. Where people want to make something very special and beautiful. But I'd like to hear from more of you. I don't want to monopolize here. Okay, Eve, and then Steve, please, and then Muriel. Eve.
Well, I'm having trouble picturing how people who were slaves who left so fast that they could only take matzah would have all these valuable things to contribute.
Where did they get them? So maybe Steve and Muriel are going to answer your question. I want to call on them and find out. Steve, you're next, and then Muriel, and then we'll hear from some other folks and dive deeper.
I had exactly the same question. Where on earth did all this material come from? They they fled with nothing. And they were in the desert, not in any place rich with materials.
Right. Muriel?
So my comment, I was caught up with verse 29. I love the idea that you can bring, it says men and women whose hearts move them to bring anything for the work that Adonai through Moses had commanded to be done. It's like, bring whatever you can. You don't have to bring millions. It kind of reminds me of how we're encouraged to donate what you can. And I just love that idea.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So perhaps there's this part of this is what they would like to bring if they did have access. So this is the hope. This is the desire. Let's collect all kinds of amazing stones. And perhaps even though we left with nothing, what did we bring? I mean, there is this tradition that, of course, that there was jewelry that people brought. And as we looked last week in Kitisa, that there is this midrash that the women didn't give up their gold for the golden calf because they knew that it was the wrong thing to do. And they were, according to the midrash, rewarded by having Rosh Chodesh every week. So you're asking wonderful questions, and we can do some homework, and I can find out what some of the archaeologists say about this. And I see that Heshi and David have raised their hands. And then Hector, you'll be next.
So isn't there a part where we went to the Egyptians on our way out and borrowed or took their jewels? That's what I remember. That we
Yes.
Yes.
That is also a midrash.
Right.
And that also reflects the fact that even though we were slaves, we supposedly had good enough relationships with folks that when our slave ancestors went to their Egyptian neighbors, that there was a generosity of spirit there. So thank you. Hector.
Yeah, I was going to add something similar because I'm reading the commentary in my
good.
It says the jewelry given by the Egyptians is now used to obey rather than violate God's commands.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to follow up on what Muriel has said, because that's really kind of the ikar here, the idea that everybody is participating. And it is pretty amazing that here we are the week after, so to speak, the week after, for us, the week after the building of the golden calf, we have our people building the Mishkan and God encouraging it. God has forgiven us and said, yes, you really blew it, whether it doesn't say that exactly, of course, but we started with building the Mishkan. And then there was this crisis of faith. Moses was gone too long, and we human beings can't wait. And we created a God that we thought we could touch and feel. And now we're back to our original goal. So I want to take a look at now, unless there's another hand that I don't see right now. Oh, Marilyn, please.
Yeah, I'm wondering, it's going to be so beautiful. I'm wondering if there's a plan to keep it beautiful, because they're schlepping it through the desert. Isn't it going to get messed up?
And dusty and
dirty,
Wow.
and the things are going to break. And
so that is a wonderful question, because it makes us think about the amazing maintenance staff that has maintained so many magnificent buildings and our very own Road of Shalom for these many years. And this is a wonderful question that you're asking, Marilyn. It's kind of, who's going to keep it up? Who's going to take care of it? And part of what we're also seeing in this, in these chapters, is the creation and support of the cast of priests, of those who will be the priestly cast, who will be taking care of the buildings and of the sanctuary ultimately. So although that's not explicit here, there is a lot of attention being paid to the clothes that the priestly caste are going to wear, Aaron and his descendants. And so maybe what comes along with that privilege is also the responsibility of being the cleanup crew.
that's so interesting, isn't it? Because people often think of a janitorial job as being low. And so you have the very high and the very low people who, the same people
Who are doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's
yes. And there's actually a rabbinic story that I read recently about how a man comes to meet with the king, and they say, well, you're just a commoner, you can't meet with the king. But and then he goes away, and then he gets a job as a street cleaner, and he comes back and he says, I'm very good at cleaning up spaces. And he ends up being welcomed into the king's palace as one of the cleaners. And he says, this is all I wanted. If I can clean for the king. And of course, for Jews, the metaphor always is being a servant of the Holy One, is serving the Holy One. So how do we serve? Each of us. And there's also a wonderful, wonderful book by an anthropologist named Barbara Kirshenblatt Gimblett. And the book was written probably about 30 or 40 years about poor Jews in Los Angeles. And she interviewed these elderly Jews in Los Angeles. Someone's going to help me with the title of the book. If I were in another room, I'd be able to pull it off the shelf. And one of the people that she interviewed talked about how when she was a little girl, she would always dry the dishes for her mother, and that she complained about it. And her mother said, but this is something to the effect of, this is part of what it means to take care of our family. So you're really doing very holy work by drying the dishes. And it was such a kind of homely metaphor of service. And for all of us who have done some kind of menial labor in our lives for ourselves or for other people, it's necessary. We now call people who do this work essential workers. I mean, it's taken, unfortunately, this pandemic for us to realize who are the truly essential workers in our lives. The people who are stocking the stores at the groceries. It's the people, so many of whom have lost their jobs as waiters, as waitresses, as service people. So I could go on, but I love the fact that you asked this question, Marilyn. Fred, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was thinking about how we were enslaved in Egypt, but I'm thinking about from an artistic perspective that the Egyptians have this incredible elegance and design in clothing and spaces, and I'm wondering if that sort of kind of came through a little bit when creating the Mishkan, and I wonder if there's any connection there.
Oh, how interesting. Well, when we were together 2 weeks ago, we talked about the flamboyance and the beauty of the Mishkan, but none of us, and I would want to do more reading about that. Is that something that we picked up from the Egyptians? What a wonderful question. So, art historians, you have something to look for. I would like, Jerry, for us to go to the next page, please. We have a reading by Rabbi Jill Hammer.
Wait a second here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, you know what this is the page. This is the way it came the first time. You can see how it's like completely
All right. Well, obviously, I beg everyone's
it's okay. It's okay. It's pretty funny now.
Oh, all right. So this is from Jill Hammer. I don't know how it says it on the previous page. You can just roll it up a little bit on to see the previous page, if possible, and see her name, and then we'll read what she wrote. See, it's at the very bottom. Listening to Heart Wisdom by Rabbi Jill Hammer. And now this is from the book Torah Queeries, which I know some of you have. I'm just going to hold it up. And I just brought in this short excerpt from Rabbi Jill Hammer's description of this chapter, this Parsha Vayakhel. And I'd be happy to have a good reader, but I can't see you to call on you. Susan, you're a great reader. Are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay.
There are two modes of revelation in the Torah. One mode is that of Sinai. Revelation comes from a mountaintop in the form of laws and principles. The law treats everyone equally. It is a transcendent law, divine in origin, and descends to touch every member of the covenant with its truths. The other mode is that of the Mishkan, the tabernacle or sanctuary. As the Israelite people build the Mishkan, the shrine they will carry through the wilderness, they rely on their inner wisdom and individual gifts. Although the pattern of the Mishkan comes from the eternal, the gifts that make the sanctuary what it is come from the depths of the human heart. The Mishkan is replete with images of love and relationship, images we can use to transform our experience of what Torah is. Both of these models appear at the beginning of Parashat Vayakhel in verse Exodus 35:2. Moses is communicating in the mode of Sinai, in which law is paramount. Yet Moses then moves into the second mode, that of the Mishkan. The tabernacle cannot be built only according to law. It must be built by those whose hearts are willing.
So I really loved the distinction that she made here. And especially as we are moving through the Torah and making our way through the book of Exodus and into, well, we're going to have quite an adventure as we go forward. But to juxtapose law and the willing heart. And it's true for all of us as well. I mean, I'm sure there are some lawyers among us, and we've all lived through this very, very interesting time in American history where we have been very thankful for the rule of law and for an orderly transfer of power in our democracy. And we've so needed willing hearts. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands of willing hearts that could make this transfer of power work, and that are really, having these important conversations today in Congress about how do we care for our people in need. And so I love the image and the line that Muriel lifted up to us about the willing hearts that brought their gifts, each one to build the sanctuary. Fred, your hand is still up. Is that a new one?
Sorry, that's the old one.
Oh, all
Sorry
right.
about that. I'll lower
All
it.
right, Chip and Henry,
Okay.
you're putting a little note in, and so I'd like you to maybe say it if you're willing. Oh my goodness, you have quite a bit.
Oh, I was just putting in the Martin Luther King quote that we each have a role to play. And whatever that role is, we do our job well.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But my other question I had previously was,
Yeah,
were they constantly moving through the desert, or were they making stops for long periods of time? And therefore the tabernacle was only semi-portable?
well, that's a wonderful question, and we're going to see as we make our way through the journey, first from Leviticus and then from Numbers and then finally Deuteronomy, that there was movement and God is guiding us, and there are stops along the way, but never stops of months or years. Well, it took them 40 years, but we don't have a time when there's this sense of, okay, this is where we're going to live. There's always this moving towards the promise of a land where we'll be able to settle. But what a good question. And thank you for this lovely quote about being in Montgomery and evoking Martin Luther King. Jerry, I'd like to go to the next page, please. This is the last page. So I'm afraid I don't want this to be my hallmark, that I try to do too much in the time that we have. But I did want to share one more piece with you. And this is, if we could make it a little bigger, that would be great, so people can read it. And this is from Shefa Gold's book called Torah Journeys: The Inner Path to the Promised Land. And Rabbi Shefa Gold is an amazing teacher of Torah and of chant. So, Morag, I see that your hand is raised. Would you be willing to read, and then we'll have a question?
Yeah.
Great.
And I have a question for this, but I'll do it after the read.
Okay, thank you.
This is how do you say Pekuday?
Oh, Pekuday. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that there are many, because this is Hebrew, there are many different spellings of these parshiot. And I have previously not corrected, but tried to make them uniform for our use. And then I decided, no, this is the way Rabbi Gold transliterates it. Let's go with her. So thank you, Pekuday.
Okay, awesome. Pekuday blesses us with an accounting of all the work we have done to build a spiritual life. All the components are there. The effort and artistry and riches that have gone into this life project are made visible to us. This is why I came here, to do this work. To this project, I have brought the gold of my love and the silver of my shining desire for truth. I have made hooks and sockets to connect me with the whole of creation. I've brought every color of my changing moods, offering them up to that which is eternal. I have mined carnelian, turquoise, topaz, sapphire, emerald, agate, onyx, jasper, crystal, lapis lazuli, and amethyst in the ground of my inheritance. I have faceted these jewels with tools of mind and heart. I have chiseled, cleaned, and polished these collected treasures and arranged them for my descendants.
I'm just going to stop you here for 1 second. That's why I'm really glad that Hector read all those details, because here Rabbi Gold picks them up and owns them. Please finish us off.
Okay. And this Mishkan that I have built and that we have built together will with its beauty send us to the holy dimensions where God dwells beyond conception, beyond form or religion.
So here, another vision of the tabernacle, of the sanctuary. And Morag, you had a question, so please.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's relevant anymore, but someone mentioned about maybe Jewish people were able to bring inspiration from Egyptian architecture and artistry, but I was thinking, I don't know the exact histories of and time lengths of how long Jewish people were enslaved by Egyptians, but oftentimes when you are working for someone or you are in servitude or enslaved, you're more of the mind behind it than the person who's spearheading it. So maybe it's Jewish architecture that's really going on, that's building with Egyptian, stuff or directives that's creating what is now in ancient Egypt. I just had that thought and I wanted to put it out.
Oh, I love the thought, because what it's talking about is the unsung heroes. Who are the real inspiration? Who is doing the work? And I think that's so, so important. And as somebody who's been very involved and engaged in women's history for the last 50 years, we know that there was all kinds of women's work that was never honored. And that is actually one of the very interesting things about this Torah portion, is that it articulates both genders. They only thought in terms of two genders at that time, engaged in the work of building the Mishkan. So we only have a few minutes, and I wanted to share with you that when we finish a book of Torah, but I don't want to cut anyone off, but I'll say this first. And then if there's a last comment or two, you'll pop in. But when we finish each book of the Torah, there are 3 words that we say. So does anyone know what those 3 words are when we finish either a book of the Torah or another book of Jewish study? What do we say? Does anyone know?
Chazak, and what's Hazay? No.
Chazak, Benit Chazek. So Jerry, I want you to actually put it up on the screen for us. It's at the very bottom of the last page that I sent you.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay.
I have to share.
Have to share. Yeah, we'll have to share. So I won't get to see your faces for just a minute. So Chazak, Vanit Chazek, and Jerry will make it nice and big. And I'm going to talk about the words.
You see it?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Even, yes. So, and we're actually going to sing it. I'm going to teach a tune. So Chazak means what?
Strength.
Strength. One translation is be strong, and we will strengthen one another. So the word chazak means strong or strength. And vi is and, nit chazek is literally we will strengthen one another. So when we finish reading each book of the Torah, we say chazak, v'nit chazek, which is also a way of saying, as Faith translated it, from strength to strength we are strengthened. May we be strong to return to this. May we go on and read the next book of Torah. So that's what we're going to be doing. In 2 weeks, we're going to be coming to begin to study Leviticus. And in this time that we have left, I'm going to sing this with you. And so you'll listen. And, I'm not a cantor, so thank you for putting up with my voice. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. From strength to strength, we are strengthened. From strength to strength, we are strengthened. Try it. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, chazak,
Chazak
v'nitchazek.
v'nitchazek.
Chazak,
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 chazak
v'nitchazek.
v'nitchazek.
Chazak, chazak,
Chazak
v'nitchazek.
v'nitchazek.
From strength
Strength
to
to
strength,
strength.
we are
Are
strengthened.
strengthened.
From
Strength
strength to
to strength.
strength, we
We
are
are
strengthened.
strengthened.
So Jerry, I'm going to ask you to take that down so we can all see each other if we would like to. I want to welcome Len and Alice, who were with us on Sunday, or on Shabbos at RS, and welcome back, Francis. We're delighted to have you here again. And David, we're always happy to have many Davids here. And Wesley, we're glad to see you too. And everyone who's here tonight, Eric, Marilyn, Jerry, thank you so much, Jerry.
Sorry about all the confusion, but it was fun. It was takes a village.
Well, we're going to work out the kinks so
Yes.
that we can do this better, and that we'll have the Torah blessing up next time. And Susan, you're the one who really knows how to do this. And again, thanks to Heshi and Ellen for organizing this and for enabling us to dive into Torah week in and week out, because Torah strengthens us. So the next time I see you will be the week of Seder, and maybe we'll actually talk a little bit about that upcoming Seder and Pesach, in addition to the Torah portion, since it is one of my favorites. And I really hope that everyone here will have an opportunity to have Seder with someone on Zoom or in person. As more and more of us are getting vaccinated, there are going to be some of us who will be able to be with each other. Heshi, you want to say something about that?
I wanted to just say that Prism and RS Women, I believe, and Ellen, please chime in, will be having a Zoom Seder that will focus on social justice, and it will be on Ellen.
It's going to be on April 1st at 6 o'clock, and we're using the RAC, the Religious Action Center, Reform Judaism, Social Justice Haggadah, and it's going to be an hour, and we hope that everyone who's on tonight will join us. There is going to be a sign-up sheet, so you can look at these pages of the Haggadah. We're going to send out the link and see what pages speak to you. And we hope that you'll sign up either as a family or individuals. And we'll hear lots of voices.
Wonderful. And I love Hector's question, can we get through a whole Haggadah in just an hour? Well, you know, there's somebody who talks about a 10-minute Seder, which I think is like pretty crazy, but you can't do everything. You know, we have to leave out some of our favorite songs, but hopefully this will be, I love the idea of the social justice Haggadah. And I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Nice seeing everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you.
I'm out.
I wanted to leave